Hi everyone, I wanted to take the opportunity to help people understand a little bit more about Covid-19, about how it's spread and how viruses work. So the very simplest way for me to do that is to show you one of the easiest ways of looking at a cell and looking at what genetic material looks like. So very simply, you have one in your own kitchen, and let's have a look at an apple and see how that can teach us about what a virus is and how a virus replicates. Here we have an apple. So when you buy an apple from the farmer or from the supermarket, it looks like this. And as we all know, the apple comes from a tree. So the apple grows on the tree, and in order for there to be more apple trees, we need to be able to pass on the information on how to make an apple tree somehow. So what Mother Nature has devised is an apple. So if you think of the fleshy part on the outside of the apple exists so it can feed the seed inside. So if we cut open an apple and we want to look at its genetic material and how you would make another apple through making an apple tree, when we cut open the apple, what we see inside are seeds. The difference between an apple and its genetic material and a virus is that if you plant those seeds in the ground, look after them properly, you will create an apple tree, and eventually, when those apple blossoms come out, you will eventually get an apple, and the cycle goes forward. The difference you have with the virus is there is no virus tree, and a virus cannot replicate itself. A virus needs another cell, like another apple, to host its genetic material to make more viruses. So now think for a minute that if you wanted to hijack this apple, which is a perfect way of replicating more apples and creating more apples in your system, more cells in your system, you would have to find a way to inject that genetic material back into the apple. So the next question is how do you then relate how an apple passes on its genetic material to how a virus works, or why we're all so concerned about COVID-19? So what a virus does is it enters your system, which is to say your body, so it can enter through your mouth, through your nose, or through your eye by dissolving in your tears. If you have that virus in your system, there is an ability for the virus to hijack one of your cells and to inject its genetic material into one of your cells, which then turns from one of your cells into a virus. And then, as you can imagine, this then can infect other cells and other cells and other cells. So if you have been exposed to COVID-19, you may not have any symptoms, but you could have that virus replicating in your system. The other thing to bear in mind is that you may not have a huge amount in your system, but you can still pass it on, or the amount in your system may not be enough to trigger off a cascade in your immune system. What can then happen with some people whose immune systems aren't working properly is their ability to fight the virus is compromised, and they will succumb to the virus more so than you or I might. Where we're starting to see also incidences of people who can't fight the virus is we're starting to see evidence that the virus can cut down the lining of your lungs and make it susceptible to getting into your body and then replicating further. So what we all need to bear in mind is to keep our physical distance from each other, because we don't want to pass through droplets or through our hands that genetic material onto somebody else. The incubation period for this is 14 days. So this means that you could have COVID-19 in your system and not know it, and you could be passing it on to somebody else without knowing. What we also need to bear in mind are the reasons we have been told, the 6 steps, are still as pertinent now as they were when we spoke last week. So let's just have another look at them. So what we all need to bear in mind as well is that the 6 steps that we are being advised to take by the HSE are really, really important now, just as they were when we spoke last week. So we want to be able to spend the proper amount of time and the proper method of washing our hands So with soap and warm water for a minimum of 20 seconds, but ideally for a minute. If it's a case that you feel you need to cough or sneeze, that you do that into a tissue, or if you don't have a tissue, that you can do it into your elbow. We also then need to think that if it is a case that we have virus on our hands, it's really important not to touch our faces, because that's an easy access area to our mouths, to our noses, and through our eyes. As we are at home or at work, it's really important to clean and to disinfect surfaces as we go. And then we have to start thinking of the final two parts, which are that we must maintain our physical distance. And even at home, it's a good idea not to shake hands when you meet somebody, not to hug them to greet them, not to kiss them to greet them. And finally, a distance of 2 meters. And 2 meters is practically the length of a car. That's how we should be talking to each other, and that's how we should be interacting with each other. We should also be cutting down the amount of time that we spend talking to people to the bare minimum, and just to get the essential information across. Pharmacists are the front line of the healthcare professionals in helping people to get their regular supply of medicine, to get the advice that they need about their medicines, whether that's an over-the-counter medicine or a prescription medicine. We need to be able to keep ourselves safe. We also need to be able to keep our teams safe so we can keep our pharmacies open. We are adhering to the strictest and most stringent guidelines that we can in order to keep the pharmacy open. But you have a part to play as well. We would ask everybody to phone ahead and give us 24 hours notice to prepare their prescription. There is plenty of medicine in the Irish supply chain to get everybody their medicines, but the system works on a 1-month system and with overnight deliveries. So it may be the case that people are looking for next month's medicine now, still in March. No pharmacy is in a position to do that, because that's how we know that stocks will run dry and put the system out of kilter. If it's a case that you feel that you have any of the symptoms of COVID-19, please do not come to a pharmacy. Please self-isolate and get in touch with your GP or with the HSE to let them know that you have those symptoms. Even the smallest symptoms that you have, if you come into a pharmacy or any other social context, you are putting other people at risk. I can't emphasize this enough, and that we are here to help, but we can only help for as long as we keep the doors open. So please be considerate of other people, just as you would like them to be considerate of you. And bear in mind that in this time, people are getting their medicines, but with warning and notice, we can do the best job that we possibly can.